So let's see what the last session brings. And we didn't even finish the previous sutta, so I saw that afterwards, but let's finish it off. Since mendicants, monks and nuns, even that Sakka, the Lord of the gods, while living off of the fruit of his good deeds and ruling as a sovereign lord over these gods of the 33, will speak in praise of patience and gentleness. You can excel at this, for you who have gone forth in such a well-explained teaching and training can develop patience and gentleness. So if Sakka can do this, he is just the Lord of gods, he is nobody really. So, but you should be able to do it, because you have gone forth. You have become monastics in this teaching, in this well-explained teaching and training. So he's kind of getting his monks and his nuns, presumably, to do the practice properly. Okay, let's go on to the next sutta. Transgression. Okay. Mendicants, there are two fools, or two kinds of fools. One who doesn't recognize when they have made a mistake, and one who doesn't properly accept the confession of someone who has made a mistake. These are the two fools. So recognizing that you have made a mistake. So this is kind of important, because if you don't recognize your own mistakes, if you don't have that kind of humility, then you're not going to move forward. It is important to be able to have enough self-confidence that you're able to recognize your own mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay to not to be perfect. And if we don't accept that, then we are going to be stopped and blocked in our progress on the path very often. Sometimes people will point out little treasures to you, and when they point out a treasure, they will say, "Oh, you just made a mistake," and they will say, "Oh, thank you for pointing out the treasure." You know that old saying in the suttas. So when someone points it out, next time you should say that. Thank you for pointing out the treasure. It's hard to say, right? It's kind of it's not so easy because very often we don't want to hear about it. But again, they are pointing out a treasure because we will remove obstacles from achieving something very positive. And that's why they're pointing out a treasure when they're pointing out a mistake. Usually the people you will be able to listen to better are people who have a certain authority, who you feel are spiritually well practiced. You will listen to them. It is not so easy to listen to some scallywag who kind of tells you off, right? Because they're angry or whatever. You'd rather not hear from them. But even they sometimes may have a point, And if they don't have a point, okay, you just shrug it off and you don't worry about it. But if they have a point, okay, thank you for teaching me. There is a beautiful sutta. This is what Ajahn Brahm, I remember he was pointing out, not the sutta. This is in the, which sutta is it? Maharahulavada Sutta perhaps, where famously Venerable Sariputta, he is kind of walking along, and then Rahula is this little novice, this little child, and he says to Sariputta, "Venerable Sariputta, your robe is wrong." And Venerable Sariputta is this great arahant, and so Venerable Sariputta, he checks, "Oh yeah, my robe is not on right," and so he kind of fixes his robe up, and then afterwards he comes out and he says, "Thank you, teacher," to Rahula, who is this little novice. And it's kind of beautiful. The great arahants in the world, they are humble. They do things in the right way. So they recognize their mistakes. And so it's important to recognize mistakes, because then we can grow. Otherwise, we tend to stay in those habits and we never get out of them. And then the other one, if you do make a mistake, sometimes you will confess that, especially among monastics, we will confess our mistakes. Then you should accept someone else's confession. If someone says, "Oh, I made a mistake," and then you should give forgiveness for that. You shouldn't kind of stop someone from asking for forgiveness or from accepting their confession. You should understand that this is important for the other person. They will grow in this way. So if someone is really asking for forgiveness and want to their mistakes to be recognized. You are foolish if you don't accept that, regardless of who the other person is, because you are blocking their growth. You're blocking the opportunity to move forward. So that is kind of an important point. There are these two who are wise. One who recognizes when they have made a mistake, and one who properly accepts the confession of someone who has made a mistake. If you want to be wise, then accept the confession of someone who's made a mistake. Forgive them. Move forward. In the Vinaya Pitaka, if you are a teacher of somebody, and someone, your disciple, your student, asks for forgiveness, you are bound to give forgiveness. You're not allowed not to give forgiveness. You commit an offense if you don't give forgiveness. That's kind of how serious it is according to the Vinaya Pitaka. And so always give forgiveness when someone asks. So we have another sutta called the Wilderness. So, wilderness at Savatthi. Standing to one side, a deity addressed the Buddha in verse. Living in the wilderness, peaceful spiritual practitioners eat just one meal a day. So why is their complexion so clear? Interesting. So here is the answer to the question you wanted to know for a long time. And what is the real secret to the perfect complexion? So let's see what it has to say. They don't grieve for the past, nor do they pray for the future. They feed on whatever comes that day. That is why the complexion is so clear. This is what you have to do to get a good complexion. Don't grieve about the past. Don't forget about the past. Give it up. Live in the present. This is what you want to do to get good meditation anyway. And then the kind of nice byproduct that you had never expected is that your complexion gets nice at the same time. Isn't that cool? Get good meditation and good complexion. This is kind of a bonus point that no one had really considered before. So you just whatever comes that day, you feed on that. Doesn't matter what it is. So that is very easy here at the BGF because what we feed on every day is it's good, very nice stuff. So it's easy, but not always so easy. And so you're happy wherever comes. Because they long for the future and grieve for the past, fools wither away like green reed mowed down. It's the idea of grieving for the past and longing for the future is so problematic. Your mind is not really there. You're not really enjoying what is going down. You are just kind of holding on to something which doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of tragic. You're not able to really live your life fully because your life doesn't happen in the future, doesn't happen in the past. It happens right now. Now is the time when you are kind. Now is the time when you're generous. Now is the time when you learn the suttas. This is what you're doing now. You just learned about complexion, for goodness sake. This is a kind of bonus teaching you never had expected when you came here. But now you know. And you just wither away. You become this grey old person. You wither away. You don't really live fully here. Life is kind of meaningless to you. You become this old person who just withers and eventually you die. Your meaning, your purpose, what life really is about bypasses you completely. You never really grasp the opportunity when the opportunity should be there. It's kind of sad when you see that. Don't be that kind of person. There's nothing in the future that is interesting. What is interesting is happening now. You're creating the future, not by longing for the future. That's not how you create it. The reason why we long for the future is because we think that I will create a future, I will think about it, and by thinking about it, I will sort it out, and then I will be ready for the future. But no, you never get ready for the future by thinking about it, because it's always going to be different from what you think. The future is going to be something else. The way that you create a good future is by living well right now. That is how you create a future. Your future is decided by the kind of karma you create in the moment. If you create karma that comes from compassion, that comes from metta, that comes from peace and stillness, that comes from learning the suttas, that comes from having right view, if that is how you live, your future will be a bright one. Your future will be a bright one depending on how you live right now, on your ability to be present and doing the right thing in the present. That is what matters. Now is when you create that good karma, not by longing for the future, not by thinking that you will sort it all out, by thinking about it and dealing with all the problems. Grieving for the past. Oh, in the past things were so great. Yeah, when I was a child, I had a happy childhood. Or last year I had so much more money before I wasted it all on the stock market or whatever. I don't know what you do. You grieve for the past when everything was great. Actually, it wasn't all that great. Yeah. For a wise person who lives well, the future is always bright. That is how you create a good future for yourself. And this is one of those beautiful things to think about. Because if you long for the future, or you are maybe afraid for the future because you see what's happening in the world, all of that is wasted. Because your future is going to be a good one if you live well, regardless of what happens in the world, regardless of the wars, regardless of climate change, regardless of refugees, regardless of the Malaysian economy or politics or whatever, all of that is irrelevant. Regardless of what happens outside, you will have a good future. So don't wither away. Be a green plant. Yeah? Be a green plant? Be a green plant. Be someone who is alive. A green plant means alive, vitality. Yeah, using your life to the maximum. That's the idea here. And you do that by being present, by using your life to the maximum benefit in this way. All right. Wow, now comes an interesting one. Are you ready for this one? Yes, okay, well, very, very daring. What? Okay, so we're still dealing with the qualities of the fool, right? So this is one. Now I suddenly understand what is going on here. I haven't looked at this for a while, so I can't remember what's here. So we have looking at all the qualities of a fool, how a fool is to be distinguished from a wise person. Yeah, the fool withers away like green reed mowed down. And we have looked at kind of the simple ways of understanding what the fool is. But I want to look at one sutta that is much more profound and which describes foolishness and wisdom in more profound terms. So you can see the other side of the coin, the deeper side of the Dhamma as well. And this is found in Majjhima Nikaya 22, the Alagaddūpamasutta, the simile of the cobra, as he would have it here, or the simile of the snake, as it's often called by Bhikkhu Bodhi, I believe. It's a very beautiful sutta. It has this beautiful simile of the snake. It has another beautiful simile of the crossing over with a raft and then leaving the raft on the other side, a simile of the raft, and these kind of things. But it also has a long discussion of the idea of non-self, one of the deepest discussions of non-self in all the suttas. And so if you're interested in the deeper sides of the Dhamma, this is a place to go, understanding the idea of non-self. Non-self is like the jewel in the crown of Buddhism. It is the one thing that distinguishes the Dhamma and Buddhism from all other teachings. Yeah, so non-self is the kind of the unique thing, and this is where you really find out who is truly wise in the deepest possible sense. Is when it comes to the this particular teaching. So now we are jumping from the very simple teachings to the most deepest teachings. You okay with that? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad you are okay. So don't tell me I warned you. Yeah, I did warn you. So if you want to close your eyes and block your ears, you have a chance. It's the last opportunity to do that. If you are, see how brave you are. I'll see how many people are closing their eyes in a second. There will be no bad marks in the book because you close your eyes. That's okay. Anyway, so simile of the cobra. Just a very short extract from quite a long sutta. So first of all, the Buddha says, but since a self and what belongs to a self are not found as a genuine fact, is not the following a totally foolish teaching? The cosmos and the self are one and the same. After death I will be that permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable, and will last forever and ever. How could it not, sir? Is a totally foolish teaching. So, it's interesting that they call this a totally foolish teaching, because it is also very, very profound. And it sets the bar very high for what is a wise person compared to a foolish person. But the first thing the Buddha says here is that since a self and what belongs to a self, atta and attaniya, two words, are not found as a genuine fact. This is the first thing he says. There is no self in the world. There is nothing that belongs to a self. What is that self which doesn't exist? Well, this is kind of an interesting point, right? What does it even mean that there is no self? And this is kind of one of those things that are often discussed in the Dhamma, obviously. But what it means, and remember the Buddha existed in a certain context in ancient India. And the context was a Brahmanical religion that believed in a permanent essence in human beings. That human beings have something that is permanent, eternal, and lasting inside. That is what that pre-existing religion believed in. And then the Buddha comes along and says, all of that is actually wrong. It's misunderstanding the point. It means you haven't investigated properly. You haven't looked at what actually is going on. If you look at what truly is there, then you will not find any of this permanent business. And nothing is there that is permanent. And because the permanent thing doesn't exist, well, then there is nothing belonging to that self either. Because something which doesn't exist cannot own anything. Is that true? If it doesn't exist, how can it own anything, right? It doesn't make any sense. It can't own anything if it doesn't exist. It's like this, space over here can't own this cup or something like that. So it doesn't exist. But remember that this is actually very profound, because the idea that there is some kind of inherent existence in the world, most of the world believes in that. Most Buddhists believe in that. Almost all religions in the world are about a creator God. They are about the soul. If you look at the Brahmanical religion or almost any other teaching, they are about that. The existence of something permanent. The soul is the idea of an essence inside the human being, just like the atta or the self of the Brahmins. It's fundamental to how most of the world looks at the world. So actually it's very profound. And if you practice very deep meditation, if you achieve a deep state of samadhi, quite likely you will be very prone to taking that samadhi to be your sense of self. This is the real me. Because that samadhi experience will have all of those qualities that you would like to be. It will be non-dual. It will be like you are unified with the whole world. Wow! It will feel incredibly powerful. You will feel like you are God. Do you want to feel like God? If you want to feel like God, this is the path. This is the path to feeling like God. You have this experience of people who have them say, wow, I feel like God now. Yeah, you feel like so powerful. You feel like a nuclear reactor. This is what Ajahn Brahmans were talking about, the samadhi. That was his kind of a way of talking about it. You feel incredibly powerful. You feel the most blissful that you have ever experienced in your entire life. You feel more alive. You feel more real than anything you have ever experienced. There's no change. It is permanently the way it is. During that time you are there, there's no change. It's just this bliss and happiness going on and on and on. This must be it, right? This must be the reality. This is more real, more happy, more unified. This is amazing love and compassion and happiness and joy and unity. There's nothing negative in this experience whatsoever. This is the meaning of life itself. Because when you get to that point, there is no more desire. Craving is completely gone. You are fully satisfied and content. How can you not be when there is so much happiness? And because there is nowhere more to go, you're fully content, you have achieved the meaning of life itself. Or that's what it feels like. So how can you not think that that is permanent and real? Yeah, it is kind of very natural. So of course you would think that people achieve this, and everyone here is likely or will have a tendency to think in the same way, unless you have the teaching of the Buddha to guide you in a different direction. So this is what I mean. This is really profound, yeah? So when people say that this is a fool who believes in this is a very high class of fool. This is like the super fool, yeah? The super duper fool, yeah? The fool who is wiser than most of us. That's kind of scary. If fools can be so wise, what hope is there for ordinary people? Wow, that's kind of scary. But of course, the idea here is that we have hopefully a bit of right view, and so we won't fall into the same flaw, the same problem. So the Buddha comes along and he says that, well, that samadhi experience you had, that idea you had of a permanent God in the world or a permanent self, actually, it turns out to be impermanent. You have that state of samadhi, it arises, it passes away. You can't deduce from that there is some permanent state. That is going beyond the data. The data just says this arises, passes away. It may feel more true, but there is no data to say that this is permanent. And so you can't really go to that point. This is what the Buddha does. And so this is the teaching again, yeah, that people often have. And it's it's a very powerful teaching. The cosmos and the self are one and the same. After death, I will be that permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable, and will last forever and ever. I will be that, permanent. Right. The cosmos and the self are one and the same. What does that mean? Well, it means that the cosmos is like the visual representation of Brahman. Brahman is the underlying conscious reality of the world. Like this is the God of the ancient Hindus, the kind of highest God reality. And the cosmos, the way we see it, is almost just like the external appearance of that underlying Brahman. So when you look at the stars at night, it's almost like you are viewing that Brahman from a certain point of view. And because the idea of the ancient Brahmins was that when you die, you become unified with that Brahma, that Brahman, that underlying consciousness of reality. You become unified with that. It means that your inner self already now is really the same as the cosmos. There is no distinction. Why do they say that? Well, they say that because they have had a state of samadhi where it feels like you are unified with the whole world. It feels like all the barriers have been removed. So of course, if it feels like that, it must be true. Or maybe not. But that's what it feels like. They take it to be true because it feels that way. It feels like all the barriers have been taken away. Now you have unified with the cosmos around you. And so you think of yourself after death, I will be that. Permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable, and will last forever and ever. That's kind of how you look at things. This is the idea of the Brahmanical religion. And then the Buddha comes along. I don't know if I can call the Buddha killjoy. But he says, sorry, sorry, but if you do that, you will just carry on, because this is not a permanent reality. How can you say it's permanent, even though you had a samadhi experience? You will get reborn there because of your experience, and then you will die. Maybe you will stay there for an eon or two. It's a nice holiday. Don't go to Perth for holiday. Don't go to, I don't know where you go for holiday, Singapore, China, or whatever it is you go to holiday. Go to Brahma realm for holiday. That's much better. So if you're going to go for holiday, go for a real one where you really can relax and chill out. Most people that go on holiday, they get back, they're even more tired than they were before, because holidaying is just so tiring. So many things to see, so many photographs to be taken. Okay, go to Brahmaloka. That's the real holiday for you. And then you come back empowered, rested, with super duper energy. This is the path forward. Anyway, so is that not a foolish teaching? How could it not be? It is a totally foolish teaching. And so again, we're setting the bar really, really high. But this is the ultimate kind of foolishness. And it is the ultimate kind of foolishness. Why? Because it leads to rebirth. It leads to a continuation of samsaric existence. You don't emerge from samsara by believing in this. And that is why it is ultimately foolish. So that is the problem there. And I don't know if this makes any sense to you, especially if you're coming to these sutta readings for the first time. I feel a bit sorry for you. I apologize if I have bamboozled you or made your life miserable by saying this. But hopefully you will get used to this idea after a while, and you will see how they make sense and how they kind of work out, and why it is that the Buddha's teaching is so different from any other spiritual teaching in the world, why it is so revolutionary, why it stands in contrast to everything else, and why the Buddha is this extraordinary spiritual genius. I don't think we fully appreciate the giantness of the Buddha's spiritual achievement. It really is beyond anything that is kind of achievable. I mean, this is obviously the Buddhist point of view. I'm not pretending to not be biased. Of course, I'm biased or telling the truth. It doesn't really matter whether it's the truth or you're biased. But of course, I'm coming from the Buddhist point of view, and that is how it kind of works. So there you are. We have now looked at foolishness to the very deepest point, and I'm not going to go any further today because I think that is plenty enough already.